Hey, what's up, you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you my weekly review of the CW's The 100. This week we've seen Season 3, Episode 7, which is entitled 13. Well, first off, I apologize for my lateness again, but, work schedule and all that. But whatever, that doesn't matter right now. This episode, I loved it and despised it at the same time. Of course, the big takeaway in this episode was that we had a pretty shocking, major character death in this episode, so please, spoilers, it's in the title right down below, okay? Biggest character death we've had since Season 2 with Finn. In this episode, we saw the death of Lexa. And I'll be honest, I did see a spoiler about it before I got to watch the episode. But even knowing it was coming, I didn't know how, and it still hit me, man. I'll admit I teared up. I did cry a little bit. I'm man enough to admit that. A lot of people are just raging over this happening, and I'll give more of my more exact thoughts on how it happened and things like that later in the video. But yes, it did devastate me. It hit me more than a lot of shows have recently, and a lot of people are raging out over it, and I understand the frustration with a certain part of how it happened, which I said we'll get to in a minute. But at the same time, people are saying, oh yeah, I'm not going to watch the show anymore, your ratings will plummet, the show will get cancelled. Don't go that far, man. It's still a great show, and even if the way they wrote it to happen was kind of sloppy in a way, the scene that really focused on of the goodbyes being said and the actual final moments of the Lexa character herself, I thought were really well done, really well acted, really well written, with dialogue and stuff in that regard. But it's still a great show. Don't try to get this canceled because it's phenomenal. It's a great show. Probably one of the best, definitely one of the best on TV right now. Could be my favorite on TV right now, actually. But yeah, let's talk through the other things that happened before we get more into that again. Really sad to see her go, though. She is becoming one of my absolute favorite characters on the show. She's still probably within my top 5. Probably top 4, actually. We'll talk more about that in a few minutes. We did see Murphy being tortured, about the symbol on the City of Light, chip type thing that he was given. With Titus calling it, their most holy symbol. How does he know about this? Why does he have this? Murphy's trying to explain to him the AI and, Jaha thing, but of course that's kind of all going over Titus's head. So he's seen that. There were some really good flashbacks in this episode too. We got to find out a lot more about Allie and the AI. What exactly happened with this 13th precinct or part of Sky Crew and stuff like that. I did like seeing the guy who played Fitzwilliam from The Strain on here. He was one of them trying to dissuade Allie from doing what she was doing, and I thought he did a good job in this episode, although it was a really limited role. I did think the flashbacks were handled well, and the actress who's playing Allie, especially in these flashbacks, I think she showed some pretty damn good acting chops too. So I really like these scenes. We see the initial launch of the missiles, and how that was triggered. It really, started the over 90 years or so before the show began. So I thought that looked really nice. The visual of seeing all the explosions on the Earth, I think, looked really nice. It is approaching 1 a.m. here, so I'm not going to be able to go into too much detail about everything, but I did think all that was really well handled, really well written, and it really tied in nicely to a surprising twist with how the episode ended too. But we'll talk more about that in a minute. Of course, news of the Grounders camp that was around Arcadia, them being wiped out, that did reach Lexa, and she's again being pushed by a lot of her people to react blood for blood. take direct and violent and, in their mind, or from their perspective, justful vengeance, for the people who died. Lexa, she understands that, but she's brought around by Clarke, and at the same time, she has an open enough mind, even from her standalone perspective, to know that, as Clarke says, it's Pike doing this. He was voted in. It's not Kane who is actually able to see the meaning of peace between these people, seeing that was achievable. So Lexa's able to see that, and she makes this, still somewhat disagreeable, but actually a decent middle grounded plan that isn't completely going against either party, in my opinion. Basically her idea was to contain Arcadia, sort of set up like a perimeter or like a circle around Arcadia from like a few miles off, where anyone who tried to, or anyone who crossed, would be killed on sight. So that could potentially give her people, their justice if there's a particular person who wants to go that far again. But at the same time, she was also giving Arcadia a chance because, again, she knows Pike is behind this, and, she is giving Clarke's people, Sky Crew, a chance to take him out, or to, take him out themselves and, put Kane or someone like him back in charge, to once again maintain peace and rise back up, as she said. So I thought that was actually a pretty smart plan by Lexa. I don't know why people bashed her way of going about things so far. I thought she's pretty reasonable on both sides of it. Although I might be missing something too. I'm not a brilliant strategic mind either, but, let's see. We get another one of those flashbacks. Ali, she's saying that this version of the AI is better than the first. Saying it has more humanity and good in it and stuff like that, capable of understanding the value of human life and having more emotions and things like that. And it all really makes even more sense at the end of the episode. But like I said, that was well handled. Octavia sort of disagrees with Clarke about how she keeps on defending Lexa, keeps on staying on her side of things. Because Octavia is pretty much a grounder at this point, and she too wants to seek revenge or justice for her people, even if it's going against Bellamy, her brother, and things of that nature. So again, a lot of these characters are coming from very different perspectives, and it's really interesting to see how they all respond to it. Like Lexa, on like the very end of one perspective, she's able to find this middle area. But Octavia, who's still sort of in the middle of both Sky Crew and Grounder, she is kind of just gung-ho on one idea of it. But again, you do get Octavia's perspective. You do get the other Grounders' perspectives too. You understand why they'd want something done about this. But I just think Lexa and Clarke are able to see more of like a larger idea at play that the others aren't, because they're blinded by wanting to get, like I said, that vengeance for their people. I understand it, but people gotta, broaden their horizons a little bit. Let's see. Titus, tries to convince Lexa that her feelings for Clarke are blinding her from doing what needs to be done from her duty as commander. Titus was really good in this episode too, by the way, besides the way they wrote him to do what he did at the end, but we'll get into that in a few minutes. But I thought the actor did a good job in this episode. Let's see. But Lexa says Kostia is actually brought up, and we haven't really seen her in any flashbacks or anything, but we know that was Lexa's former love of her life, before she was killed and her head was taken off and such, which she avenged by killing the Ice Queen earlier this season. And that really just strikes a chord with Lexa, understandably. Even when Titus mentioned Kostia, even I was like, oh. I could feel it there. Let's see. We also had... and Clarke was going to go back to Sky Crew or Arcadia sort of see what she could do from within, and sort of like maintain a different idea of things for the other people and stuff. Not maybe perhaps seeing what Lexa's doing isn't always influenced by Clarke in their opinion or something. There'd be a chance for that. So Clarke was going away anyway, because Octavia also kind of pushed her to do that too. Saying, "Oh, if you don't come back, you're not the person I thought you were." Clarke and Lexa do say one of their two goodbyes in this episode, and I was already pretty emotionally invested in the fact that Clarke is just leaving. I really love the tone to it, and you guys can see in the thumbnail, I have the shot of Lexa with her hair down, on the one side of her shoulder. I can say it, Alycia Debnam Carey, she's beautiful. The actress playing Lexa, of course, and they really showed that, not just physically either, just the character, her mind, and, it's all been really well done, I think. And this leads to, finally, Clarke and Lexa kissing, and then they sleep together. They'll have some really nice and touching and beautiful, actually, I'm saying beautiful scenes. I really do think it was really nice scenes in bed, them sort of cuddling, and Clarke tracing her tattoo that she, got from being the commander and the grounder and stuff, which there's more about later. But just really nice. Really tragic too, and I sort of get why people are complaining, oh, they finally hook up again only for Lexa to die, and that's kind of a stereotypical thing to do with certain shows and movies. That happens a lot, so I can't really deny that. But it was still really well done, for what it was, in that moment. Titus actually ends up trying to kill Clarke, because he still thinks she's such a huge influence on Lexa. Remove her, then Lexa can become this blood for blood leader again. Because with Clarke, Titus thought, like many of the other grounders, that she was going to be on a path that would eventually lead to her demise and more casualties on their side of things too. So Titus tries to kill Clarke with a gun, actually, and he actually had Murphy captured, like I said earlier, and so he'd say, oh yeah, Murphy got loose and shot Clarke or something, because we don't use guns, and it kind of fit in with part of it, with who he accidentally ends up shooting in a way, because most, if not all, the grounders haven't used a gun before. It's pretty much all of them, I think, mostly anyway. So he was understandably missing Clarke as she dodged it and tried to take cover and stuff. But would it go as far as I would accidentally shoot Lexa when she opens the door to see what the hell's going on? Yeah, it's kind of a chance type of thing, but kind of slim. But anyway, either way, Lexa accidentally gets shot by Titus, and she actually starts bleeding out. And Clarke tries to save her, but we end up getting a very sad death scene. And it really did hit me. Like I said, I did tear up, I did cry a little bit, I'll admit it. And again, I get why people were frustrated, saying Lexa deserved more than just to be accidentally shot randomly and stuff like that. And I get that, she was a warrior, she was just an absolute fighter, she was such a high caliber character. But at the same time, I've read some interviews Jason Rothenberg's did about this episode and about this death in particular. And I really do believe that in what he was saying. There's an review by Nerdist that I did about it recently. You can look it up. I'm not sure if it was by Nerdist, but that's where I was reading it. I don't know if that makes sense. Anyway, and he basically kind of illustrated, or it was also an IGN review. Somewhere said that it's like a by chance thing in life. There's these little, really random, really weird coincidences that can lead to tragedy just out of nowhere. And I know a lot of people try to explain it that way, but I can go with that, I guess. But I will say that, yes, she did deserve more. Maybe have her go down fighting or something. But I'm glad this happened instead of her just being randomly killed by Pike in a fight or something. That would have pissed me off even more. Or I was thinking at one point that with the way Jasper's been acting like maybe he was going to kill Lexa or something out of nowhere. So something like that would have pissed me off a lot more than what they did here. So yeah, she deserved more. But what followed was a really, really well acted final scene between Clarke and Lexa. Eliza Taylor as Clarke did a phenomenal job. Alycia Debnam Carey, she was great, absolutely fantastic in the scene too. And of course, Lexa repeats some of the lines Clarke originally said to her. That brought up some memories between the two. And you can see how much Lexa really did care about Clarke in the end. And she even got Titus to promise that he wouldn't harm Clarke anymore after this. And he swore, and I believe him. Just really, really sad. I don't know what else to say about it. I was watching on my computer, so I didn't have to watch commercials, and yeah, I almost lost it too, man, like I said. It seems like Clarke might have had a better shot at saving her than what we seen, but I don't know. It kind of had to happen. And again, of course, Alycia Debnam Carey is a cast member of Fear the Walking Dead. She's still on that show, so I read that. We all kind of figured that the number of episodes she could work on for the 100 this season were limited. But it's unfortunate because Fear the Walking Dead's decent, okay? It's decent. The finale of season 1 of that was actually pretty good, but the rest of it's just kind of okay so far. While I'm happy that Alicia's Debnam Carey's on that show, I'd rather have her spend more time on the 100 because it's just honestly a lot more interesting show, and she played a much more compelling character. But I get it with actors scheduling conflicts. It's real life, it's reality, unfortunately. I'm sure she didn't want to just leave the show either. Though of course Fear the Walking Dead probably pays her more with AMC and stuff like that, but it is what it is, I guess. It's dose to reality for us, I guess. And I don't think Lexa would have survived the whole series, but I definitely don't think she would have died this early in season 3. So I think she'd still be alive at this point if it wasn't for the scheduling issues, I think. Let's see, she probably would have died in a different way too eventually, I think. And Titus, once Lexa dies, he ends up pulling this little AI type of thing out of the back of her neck. And it was sad because she had such a beautiful neck and stuff. But anyway, and the tattoo Clarke was looking at earlier, it was really sad to see him just cut it open. But at least she didn't get her head taken off or something, so that was nice. At least they spared us from that. But yeah, I guess the AI is actually tied to the computer system that we've been seeing in the flashbacks, and of course what she's trying to do with Jaha. And it turns out that all this is tied back into how this all started, almost 100 years ago at this point in the show, and tied into Allie and the AI and stuff. And the show's just gone even more sci-fi at this point. So I'm still confused about some of it, but basically, or part of it anyway, is that the AI has sort of made these commanders into what they are. They sort of been a path for this AI to make this society into, to try and make a comeback in a certain way, maybe. But there's more sinister things at play here. I'm still curious as to what the long-term story for this AI is going to be. Now it's even more centered on that, and I'm really curious to see what they do going forward. I'm not going to try and explain any more of it because I'll honestly just embarrass myself, but I still really loved Clarke and Lexa's relationship, though. I thought it was really well handled for the time they did have. Definitely was better than Clarke and Finn, in my opinion. And now the only person I can ever see Clarke with is Bellamy after a while. I think they've been building on it for a long time since season 1. I still think that's a long-term relationship with the show. But Clarke and Lexa was really nice, and it's sad it had to end like that. But despite the way it kind of happened was a little bit off, I still think it was really well acted, really well written with the dialogue in the end. So it wasn't a bad scene or anything. It was probably one of the best we've gotten to the show in a while, despite this season being so good so far, in my opinion, anyway. But yeah, really great episode overall, but really sad at the same time. So yeah. And don't rage quit the show either, man. It's still a great program, one of the best out there today, no question about it. I urge you to keep watching so you can see where the show's going to go, and you see it get its ending within a couple seasons, hopefully. Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm sorry for the lateness, but I still was really eager to talk about it. I'm glad I finally got it out. Alright, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Movie Pilot, and look for Inswolda.com. Catch you guys next time. Her fight is over, but she'll live on in Clarke and the Flames. Love you, Lexa. Lexa forever, man. I'm gonna stop this before I say something else awkward, but yeah.